Good morning. So, wanted to take a minute and just talk. Oh, hello, April. How are you? One more mic, if you could. Great. Just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about who we are and give a little background of our businesses and our industries, because this panel is really spread across multiple facets, and I think we get a really well-rounded discussion around how AI and automation is implemented, through the industry. So I'll start with April and just introduce yourself, and then we'll go down the line.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is April Macon. I am CEO and founder of Lasting Legacy Rentals, LLC, and I also own a New Legacy Enterprise, LLC, which is a Janakeen commercial cleaning business. We do commercial cleaning throughout all of DFW and in St. Louis, Missouri. And I have rental properties in St. Louis, Dallas, Texas, and now Atlanta.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Sharon Shapley. I am the owner and founder of Sharon's Classes. We teach English and other subjects worldwide. I've been working in this industry for about 40 years now. And we are trying to bring it as fast as we can into the era where these people can find the employees they need, because our children are trained to use AI.
Good morning, everybody. Is this on? My name is Patty Zapparoli. I am the founder of My Ops Box, which supports small business with day-to-day operations. I act as a fractional COO for my clients. I also am the Strategic Operations and Digital Transformation Director for CFO Leadership Council. I've been in operations for over 30 years, so I have a lot of experience in different industries: e-commerce, computers and components, operational businesses, finance, all kinds of different platforms and things like that. So I hope to bring, and I really represent small business, so I hope to bring some of that into this conversation.
Great. And my name's Ray Ferranti. I am the CFO and CCO of DXD Capital, which is a private equity real estate development fund. We build storage facilities around the U.S. Prior to that, I worked at two $14 billion hedge funds, traded mortgages, loans, and very esoteric instruments in the financial markets. And I think that throughout my 18 years working in that space, it's really been about data and how to normalize data and how to efficiently process that data to get the most out of your decision making. We spend a lot of time crunching numbers, and I learned very early on how to remove the mundane processes that we're doing, so that way we can spend more time making strategic decisions. And so I think that's a really good segue into how do we use integration and what is automation, because it's not just AI. And so you'll see across the board here that we're going to go through some examples of how we've utilized automation, some of which may be AI and some may not. So starting with April, a little bit about how you've integrated that into your business.
So, as far as the automation piece, in Lasting Legacy Rentals, we use automation to go after our demographics, to go after our medium line and medium income brackets. It does captures the areas that we want to target to move into, where we want to put up rental properties, advertising, marketing. It does a range of all of that. In New Legacy, we use the automation for our payroll. We use AI and automation to do our payroll, to do our advertising and marketing, and we also use it to schedule our contractors for our businesses, and we do our bids through automation and AI.
Sharon?
We're using automation to make learning more effective. If teachers do not have to sit around grading spelling tests, that allows teachers the time and opportunity to focus on other aspects of their students, to learn how to teach them, because we are not bogged down. I think education probably wins the award for mundane, repetitive actions, and so we're trying to take that back, take that out of the equation.
So I represent small business, and many times some of the automations or the AI is very preliminary. One of the organizations I work for was really struggling with reporting and getting actual data and stats and percentages. So one of the things we did is we did some Excel dashboarding. They already had Excel, they knew how to use Excel. So we did some automation where we do an upload once, and then it kind of spits out into all of these other reports that all of these other people have access to. And it really got rid of the double work, right? So we don't have two people doing the same thing. They're sharing the data has been standardized. And it really cuts out the admin work to try to get to the reports that you need. Another thing that we are just now getting ready to implement is AI emails. There's no reason why we need a whole department to put together an email that's the same template, just has a little different content, maybe different dates, things like that, where we can have AI help us with that. So that will actually get rid of a huge portion of what that department does, but we have so many other things that we need them to do that they can't. So we're excited that AI is going to replace that, but then we get to put them exactly where we need them.
Great. So I've always viewed automation and AI tools as the answering of who. Who is doing the work? Is it a human, or should it be an automated process? So, as an executive looking at my company, do I hire more, or do I just put the automation in place? And I break that down by looking at everyone's specific tasks, right? Yesterday, we talked about visions and missions and goals, and those goals boil down into tasks, things that you do every single day to then achieve those goals and get to the end line. So if you're spending 90% of your day just crunching a number or prepping an email or putting together a summary for a board meeting, or comparing legal documents, or downloading bank statements, or checking partner capital bank statements that you're sending out. These are all mundane tasks that take a lot of time for somebody to sit at a desk and churn through. All of these have opportunity for automation. But I'm not a programmer, I'm an accountant. So how do we do this? Well, today it's even easier because we have tools like ChatGPT that you can say, please write me a Python script to go into my email, find every email that is from this person with this subject, and organize it in this manner. Or take the download and then save it on my G drive or local folder. These are things that are all possible, and so it starts with asking the question, why am I doing this? And having teams of 16 people, 16 accountants to run a book, a $14 million book, it's sort of crazy because the payroll is through the roof. Now, some of them are really great critical thinkers, and you want those people on staff. But the other ones that are just warm bodies putting together the summary, crunching the number, do you need that? Can you be more efficient? And that's where, having the skills in VBA or to Patty's point, in Excel or dashboarding, is it worth hiring a tech person to then, put the automation in? And I think some of the challenges are, how do you do that when you're doing your work?
Exactly.
So that's a great question. I'm going to ask you, Patty, how do you actually implement these things while you're still keeping the wheel moving forward?
Yeah, this is an interesting question for me. One of my clients, back to the AI email, we first started with all of the tasks. So what is everybody doing? And then we decided, okay, what should people be doing and what can we do, automation wise. So we actually had to start with a people process of removing some of those mundane admin tasks, putting them into a different department, working through that process, to now we're at a point where now we can bring AI in because we had that human, expertise, we had that human process, this is what we want. Now we want the AI to replicate it. So for me, it always starts with and I'm operations, so it always starts with the task. What is it that you're doing? What's its purpose? Who does it go to? Who needs it? Why do we need it? And a huge benefit for my client of what happened is we exceeded our stretch goals for new members. So we had a goal and we had a stretch goal, and we actually exceeded that because all of those mundane tasks were now done differently. And our critical thinkers, like you mentioned, actually were doing the core of their job, which was bringing in new members and making sure membership is happy. So it definitely works that way. It worked for me. And then, of course, the training along the way. We can talk about that later.
In creating interactive courses, which is what we're doing, there's 50 of them altogether, it slows you down. I am going to be the first to admit that it's the first step slows you down, because that what is your task? You have to really focus in on what specifically is the task. But automation allows it to be easily replicable. So the first course was awful. I need software that does this. I need a program that can do that. How do I track this? We were talking about the point system and how the kids love to see who's winning. And setting all that up, it's a headache. But now that is done, and going forward, it's just increasing the complexity because the automation is there, and it makes it that much easier to do.
I would piggyback off of that. The startup, the getting it started, that is the processes and getting everything in place. Yes, you have to have that person, there to run and set up all of the automation. But once it's there, it has increased to the point where I can spend most of my time now doing my actual cleaning, doing the actual advertising, and going out and looking at the properties that the AI has brought to me, and I can do more legwork now. Whereas my head of HR that's doing all my payroll and all that stuff, that's being done for him now. So now he can actually go out and help me interview, market, and we can just do a lot of our legwork on our own and allow the automation to do it for us. So it does. But to start it up, yes, it does. It takes a lot. But I think the startup gets you to where you need to be, and then that's where you see the efficiency.
You have to double down.
Exactly. And that's where you get the efficiency. That's where you get the running. Every Friday, my reports shoot out for me. So all I have to do is just review them. Every 2 weeks, we do payroll. So it's just automatically shooting out for me now that we've set it up.
And I think we have Sam, so.
Sorry to interrupt. We have Dr. Sam Samane, founder and CEO of Theosim. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome to the party, Sam.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm late.
By
I
the
was
way,
in the wrong place.
why don't we catch up and just give everybody, I know you spoke yesterday, but quick.
So I'm Sam Samman. I'm founder of Theosim, an AI technology company. I'm also a best-selling author for the book, The Singularity of Hope, Humanity and AI. And yes, I'm happy to be with you guys, so I will catch up. Please, go ahead.
So, talked a little bit about automation, talked a little bit about AI, and we talked a little bit about humans and how they have to be in that critical decision-making process. So, looking at the landscape of AI, and Sam, I'll start with you, so that way you can really catch up. And I really enjoyed when we spoke on the phone. how does the human interaction change in this new landscape? How do we get people with the right skill sets to keep driving business forward as these AI platforms are coming into businesses more and more?
Yeah, in fact, we always need a human in the loop. It's very dangerous to trust automation 100%. Okay, and the way it comes, it needs to come from our common wisdom, our experience in the company itself. One thing I said in my book, I call it brain obesity. And brain obesity is analogy for obesity that we got after Industrial Revolution, when people don't use their muscles anymore. They are in a comfortable environment. With AI, we have the same risk. If people, okay, ChatGPT generate me an article, I'm happy, I'm copying it, and that's it. That's a typical brain obesity, and it's dangerous for us all. What we need to do is to use AI wisely. What does that mean? Amplifying our own intelligence, doing a loop with AI. Ask first question, coming back, and if you do it in an automation way, when you put an app in the middle always, and let's call it the H app or the human factor, that means ask an expert in the company, and the way it needs to be practically done comes from your own SOP. Like it could be an approval process, verification, audit. It's up to the company way to do it, but it should be a human in the loop. We don't have a choice.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent point. And as a finance professional, CFO, and a chief compliance officer, I think it's absolutely critical. When I was going through audits, you learn a few things, but some of that is control. And you don't want to lose control. So if you just let the system iteratively learn, you're going to move further and further away from the mean. Standard deviations keep moving because you're not course correcting it. And so having a staging area where there's a human interaction is very critical to ensure that you're on the right path and you're not putting things out that are erroneous. Because we've talked about this, AI can lie. Right? So I think that it's, having the SOPs documented. So looking at your business to actually break down the steps of how it's supposed to work and understanding that. And I say documented because, and we'll get to Sharon next, because how do I teach the next person what my brain knows when they're coming into a system that's automated? Because I'm the architect, I'm the one that set it up, but now I have to transfer that knowledge. So documentation is very, very important. I'm glad you brought that up. So Sharon, how does education keep up now? Because how does education evolve to change the way that people are learning and thinking so that when they get to be in the workforce, they're able to do these things?
Well, it's a challenge. We have a lot of antiquated views on how education is supposed to work. By the time the book is printed, it's out of date. So why are we printing books? Why are we teaching kids out of books that were printed in 1970? That information is inaccurate. Secondly, we have got to get the education as an industry to accept technology, a step that has not really happened.
Well, because AI is cheating, right?
AI is cheating. And I'm going to steal a page from our previous conversation. I told a student the other day, he did a report, and I said, okay, what did you use? And he said, well, I used DeepSeek. And I said, did you totally trust your classmate? And he just turned his head and he says, classmate? I said, yes. DeepSeek is learning. So if you're not willing to take your classmate in your room's answer for granted, why would you take your classmate electronic for granted? But it just goes on and on. We were talking this morning about where they learned how to do the things that are making them successful today. Neither one of them said school. Our schools are outdated. Our curriculum is outdated. The teachers don't want to use it because they think it's letting the kids cheat. The teachers don't understand it. We've got to build a bridge between you and us. And I don't know who's in charge of building it, but somebody better start. Because the fact that they both said we learned how to do this outside of school. So what you're saying is school is no longer equipping me with the knowledge and the skill set to have a business. We need to change that.
I agree, and not to disrespect the school, but if it's just checking a box, it's not adding value within the life cycle. And so it's how do we iteratively learn just like the AI, right?
Right.
So Sharon called it a classmate, and she's referencing in our earlier conversation, I treat AI as an intern. And you all know how interns work. They're great doers. They're going out there, they're in the weeds, they're putting things together. But what else do? They make a lot of mistakes. And they bring you back things that are not exactly what you want. And so you have to learn how to give logical directions to the AI. And so, doing that allows you to have that loop that Sam referenced to say, do I trust it? Should I challenge it more? And then how do I keep growing within that platform? Moving over one step, these are open source platforms. How do we secure our data? Do we have to worry about that, Sam?
In fact, one of the major application we need to do immediately is using AI in security. Because you can build today's very affordable, what we call AI agent to secure your data, verify it. And it goes again to the human factor. You need always to have a kind of authentication that has real human interaction, especially for critical data. Last thing, and this is my personal experience, when we are using a public AI like ChatGPT, you are at a huge risk of giving away all your own internal data. They tell you, yes, we don't train it on your data. Do you trust them? I don't. And I saw it. A lot of parts that I wrote in my book are now everywhere. When you ask AI about things, I see my text popping up.
Yeah, because it's
So,
trying to do it.
yeah, and you ask AI about it, I say, yeah, Sam Saman said that. Okay, why you didn't say it in the beginning? And it will not. And I'm a small example, it's everywhere. But talk about your business, your own intellectual property. So I can help you secure it, but your own AI. Don't trust the major companies' AI. And you are talking about open source. Oh my God, it's really a heaven. You can download the equivalent of, in fact, you can download DeepSeek itself and use it. And we tried that at a desktop computer. The small version of DeepSeek run on a local desktop computer very smoothly. But of course, don't run it as is. Change the code. Get someone to change the code for you to secure it. And it's a minimum these days.
We have data governance, right? We have all of these SOPs and requirements and who can access and who can share and who can use. I think we also need an AI governance in our companies of, again, who can use it, what you can give it, what you can take from it. I think that's important.
I used AI to write that policy. So I asked it, how do I protect myself against you? And how do I allow my employees to use you to the maximum benefit without giving away our secrets? And it comes back and it gives you a really good, it knows itself well, right? So it will help you in setting those boundaries, but those are certainly boundaries that you should review as you're implementing and bringing this stuff into your platform, because trade secrets are trade secrets, right? That is your bread and butter. That's how you're earning, and that's how you want to keep yourself protected. So we become more efficient, and the landscape of the employee changes. I guess more on how do you, Shannon, I'll start with you because you were talking about it earlier. How do you get your staff on board to double down, like April said, do the work to implement the automation without the fear that they're going to get replaced? Because there is a shakeout. It's a natural shakeout. And how do you educate them to say you're not getting, you're getting repurposed?
Well, repurposing is a good term. But I think one of the main issues here is that you said, I used AI to write that. Okay, the quality of your answer is only as good as the quality of your question. And if we all agree that the quality of what we get depends on the quality of what we are asking, that is an open ocean of you need to learn specific vocabulary. And that humans are the only people that have that. You cannot tell AI to teach you vocabulary and it do any good, because you have to be exposed to the word 6 times. In wording, in teaching, what we're doing now in their activities is, what words do you need to type into ChatGPT, Copilot, DeepSeek, whatever you're using? What is the question? How do you word the question? And that is something that is going to take a lifetime of human beings sitting down with students from 3 to 83 and going, what specific task, like Patty said, what task do you want? That you have to know the words, the collocations that go with the task. If you don't have that knowledge, what you're going to get out of AI is going to be generic, because you don't know how to ask the right question.
Right.
So
right.
vocabulary.
It's the commands. And it's the logic that you're implementing through the commands, and then expressing, well, what kind of tone do you want in the response? You're teaching it, Sam.
But things are changing quickly. What we used to call it like prompt engineering, I think it's absolute with the new AI that we don't all have access to yet. But you will be surprised how prompting is somehow improved. And now it can guess what you want. It was not a year ago. Okay? And for that, I advise people to experiment a little bit with Grok 3, and you will be amazed. Because now it can tell you, no, this is not what you mean. You wanted that. And that was not ChatGPT a year ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's true. I learned quickly, too. I had asked it to do something for me, and when it came back and I read it, I was like, that's not what I asked, but you gave me exactly what I did ask. That's not what I meant, right? So AI is going to know what you mean. They're responding to exactly what you wrote, and it's so true that you do have to ask kind of the right questions, but I'm happy to know that it's going to kind of interpret a little bit.
But it's still dangerous because it's arrogant too. The new version of AI, it can correct you, but sometimes you say, okay, but do you know more than me? It will tell you yes. And that's dangerous because it's just a software. It's not aware what they are saying.
Right. So there's no EQ in there. It's just giving you the literal logic answer.
It's casting an illusion of intelligence.
Yes.
But it's freaky good.
Right. But you still need the human in the loop, right? And so that's really the key thing. And outside of AI, even through automation, Patty, you implement automation tools to really change people's job. But there is shakeout there. You have you're going through implementations now. That also plays a piece. So a little bit about that and how you get employees to work through those automations, because I think they see that more. That's a real. They see it coming because the dashboarding, the VBA that you install, the Python code that takes away what they were doing for 4 hours every day. They turn around and say, now what am I supposed to do? Right. So how do you navigate that? Because that's a natural fallout as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I always start with, if you didn't have to do this, what else could you do? What else would you like to do? What else do you think is important in your job? And when you start to get people's engagement that way, you learn a little bit more about what tasks can we automate that's not going to bother them, what tasks should we automate that maybe they still want to do, so how are we going to get past that, and then what task should always be a human task. And the more we get engagement that way, asking them what would work for them, what's their experience, what do they need, you get better buy-in, you get consensus, and then in the end, it starts to work really well for everyone.
Yeah, April? You-
Yes, I can piggyback onto that because before, when I first started my business 3 years ago, one person was doing the job of like 3 or 4 people. So it was easier for us to transition into the AI and into our QuickBooks and Homebase and allow all of those things to automate for us. That way, that freed him up to be able to just concentrate on managing, doing the HR, going out and canvassing and planning our cards and our portfolios and everything to get our names out there. And the automation just did itself once it got programmed. So it does help. And you definitely have to speak exactly what you're wanting it to do. Ask the specific questions of what you want it to do and what you needed to prepare for you in order for you just to automate it and get your weekly reports, get your payroll done every 2 weeks, as far as that.
Sam, who's at risk first?
Everyone. In fact, the problem is not that AI become human-like. We are giving, for years and years, machine jobs for human, right? Yeah. Even at the high level, even if you go to managerial things, we do all of us robotic things, right? And you don't know at which level these things are critical for a company or not, right? So everyone is at risk, but I will tell you also, we all have opportunities. Because the same way AI simplify things and take some people jobs, it gives you the opportunity to do more complicated things, right? So if you think that the task take 5 minutes from AI, you are doing it for a full day, you are in the wrong position, please. And you can use AI to learn something new, more complicated.
Yeah, and we talked about IT professionals, right? So, the coding is probably the easiest thing for AI to replicate because that's what it is.
Because the people who are developing AI, it's the task that they know the best. They know how to code, right? So it's easy for them to build an AI that code. And ironically, most of their job will be disappearing the first. But we can remove a programmer, basic one, right now. But we cannot remove the architect. We cannot remove the person who will supervise the process. We still need a human. But it's still scary. No one is safe anymore. Okay, the big manager as the basic person. But what's also creating is new opportunities. I think we need all to become somehow entrepreneurs. We will see the age when you have 2 people generating $1 billion with army of robots.
Right. So I think a natural question and we'll go down the panel, is how do I start? Right? If I'm sitting in the audience and I want to get more into automation and more into the usage of AI, where do I begin so that I get on the right path? Sam, you want to start? And we'll just go down.
Are you asking in terms of knowledge or in terms of process?
Actually implementing automation and use of AI within any company, where do you start?
I identified, and I said yesterday in my speak, 5 level. So the first level is just using a chatbot with a set of SOP. This is the minimum, and I tell people, if you don't do that, you are at risk of losing your business, losing your job, because everybody will do that within less than a year. Now, the second level is automation using tools like Zapier, Make.com. These tools are getting better and better, and it make a lot of automation, and it become, honestly, intuitive. You can talk to it in your natural language, and it create the automation for you. We have a higher level, which is Python. and you can write script in Python. When I tell people write script in Python, you don't learn it at all. You just ask the AI to create it in Python for you.
Python's in my email every day.
And you have a bigger level, which is creating your own AI. And again, it seems scary for people who never thought about it. But once you start the project, getting 1-2 consultant and a small server that you can rent today's for $300 a month, it's maybe cheaper than buying or installing a department of IT, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's getting affordable. But now comes the difficult question. This is what to automate, right? How you can mix human expertise and AI and not messing things up, because one mistake with AI, it's worth 100 of mistakes without AI.
Right. April?
Yeah, I'm one of those old school. I'm a millennial, but I was raised by baby boomers, so I stay on the down low. I stay on the most economical for me and for my plant base. I don't go above that second range because I've learned that if you don't speak exactly what you're wanting it to do, it can take you a whole different playing field. And before you know it, it's over your head, and you're like, okay, what did I just ask it to do? And now it done did all of this. And okay, wait a minute, now I got to bag up and see why it did that, and then rearrange it, and then call some of my kids and say, okay, I'm going to need y'all to help me fix this because I didn't want it to do all of that. So I do, and getting started for especially a person that's really not computer savvy and all of that, I would take it slow and just do the first line first.
Sharon?
I'm living all of this right now. So in designing and in taking curriculum that I had already created to be taught on Zoom with a teacher and class, to now making it something interactive that the student can set at home with his iPad and complete the coursework without a teacher, requires a whole lot of that number one. and it's a slow process. And for you guys, it's easy because you know all of this stuff. This was not stuff, I didn't learn it in school either.
Exactly.
And so I started out with Copilot. Copilot, I need to be able to create a book with the pictures I want and the words that I want, put it in a book form, and so I've honed in on how to ask the right, and it will say, of course, here's a list of programs that can help you. And so you learn then as you go, oh, wait a minute, I want it to be able to be printed if the parent chooses to print the book. So, yes, I'm with April. This is not easy. It's a lot of trial and error. And a lot of it, I've gotten help from my high school students.
Right.
I need a program that I can put in the words and it create a song. Oh, yeah, Suno. Try Suno. It's cheap and it works. Then to incorporate all of that into one interactive course has been difficult.
Yeah. Patty?
Yeah, for me, well, sorry about that. I'm operations level, and everything for me is task-based, like who's doing what, when, and where, and how long, and where does it go to next. So I always start there and then reverse engineer, and so all of those tasks is what objective, which means we have to do all of these different things. And in small business, we use a lot of SaaS, right? We use everybody else's software. But what I found is they're using maybe 20% of the capabilities of that software. Right. So it's like, go back and see what can this software do for me with all of these tasks that I've just laid out, and really start to completely utilize the software that you have. You can always reach out to the companies. They have support, they have knowledge centers, they have videos. So I would start with the tasks, and then build that into the software we're already using. And then when you get to a point where, okay, I have these 3 things left over, but nothing can connect, now we're dealing with integrations. And that's kind of the process from there.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. understanding your business, documenting your business, having the tasks outlined, it really gives you that roadmap to start. And I'm 100% with you in that we underutilize most of the softwares that we're using. We underutilize our brain, right? So it's a natural thing where if you're doing something and it is a difficult, you identify it as a mundane task, a repetitive task, you first look into that software and say, is there an automation that's already factored into the tool that I can then implement? If it's not, you then go look for a secondary solution, which may be writing a piece of code to automate it, or using an AI on top of that. And the one thing that I have experienced in big data is understanding your data. And it's a very broad statement that I just made, but you want the single source of truth. Having a warehouse of your own internal data that you know, okay, if I say, give me the interest rate, I know what that interest rate means. Is it the current interest rate? Is it yesterday's interest rate? Is it the interest rate that was when I closed the loan, right? What exactly is that piece of data? So that way, when I'm pulling it into all these external softwares where I'm creating AI, putting a chatbot right over it to say, okay, you no longer have to go search for that, just ask the chat, what is the interest rate on this loan? I know what I'm going to get back as the answer because I have normalized and validated my data in a warehouse, and that is a critical step because, and Sam's gonna jump in, I know, because if your data is all over the place, and garbage in, garbage out. Okay, that's the simplest way to say it. And so, as a executive at the business, I deploy everyone to look at their data, and then we aggregate it into a warehouse. I use 15 different platforms. I have 15 different tabs on the top of my screen. I'm going from one system to the next system. But what happens is all of those are plugged into the warehouse, and then AI comes right over the top, and that's how we design it.
In fact, I wanted to say I agree with you. This is the place where AI is very weak still. The context, how you manage big data and go into the right context. Even the new Grok is not good at that yet. And their window right now is very small. We are talking about 128,000 tokens. That's nothing in terms of your data. You have a huge amount of data. And you know why they are not there yet? Because again, these are programmers. Their files are short relatively to your data in business. And their examples are small. So it's the part when I think it's a lot of opportunities in innovation. And it will not come from the AI people. It needs to come from people like yourself who define well the problem first and try not to replicate your process. Because I don't think we can replicate it. The way humans think, you have 15 tabs, and with the blink of eye, this is what I want. We cannot program that yet. Right. We don't know how to write it as an algorithm. But what we can do is write heuristics that help you do it faster. That's what we can do right now. But in terms of research, we are really behind how to handle big data with AI and how to improve the context. I want to know exactly where to use the AI. Not right, as you said, interest rate. What does that mean?
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, in a summary, it's a tool, right? And the tool is equivalent to intern status, so you have to validate it. You have to create your loop with human intervention, right? You have to have the emotional response that we bring to the table and the business acronym to then deploy the strategy from using the tool. And that's how we operate.
And I think it's an investment that we need to do it right now, each one for his own business. And it's more, in my opinion, not only money. It's time that you spend with people. They said something amazing, like, I don't have the expertise. Nobody has the wisdom of everything, right? But you will be amazed how many young people are very good in automation and how it's affordable. Go to Upwork, to Fiverr. And for $400, people can build all your automation. It's freaky sometimes, right? Yes. But of course, it needs interactions. It will not be, okay, build it to me, done. No. And they need to pick up your brain because you know your process. They know the languages. Still, AI is improving, but that doesn't mean we don't need to build ourselves our own processes, our own control.
Yeah. Start with your email. Figure out how to organize your email using AI. It helps. So I think we're coming up right about 9:50. So I'll open it up if anybody has any questions or any comments to the panel. Oh, there's a mic in the front over here, if you do.
Wow, we did good. We did good. Nobody had All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.